Okay, we're going to try and, hi everyone, we're going to try and fix the situation with our moderator, who's a crucial part of today's exciting discussion. And we had Yuko with us, who is from the General Manager of the Emergency Response Department at Japan platform. But I'll start the session and we'll work on that and we'll get into it because we know everyone's here and excited for today's discussion. My name is Kea, and I'm the regional representative for the International Council of Volunteer Agencies, which is a global humanitarian network of NGOs and platforms working to connect everyone and focus on principled and effective humanitarian action. Today, we're really lucky to have this discussion. While we've been talking within this event about private sector partnerships of all different varieties, we're focusing in on the Asia region and learning and going to be hearing opportunities to hear examples and experiences being shared from different countries within the region. We know, globally, for 2021, the estimates have come out for humanitarian need, and we're seeing around 235 million people are estimated to be in need. And this is almost a 40% increase from what we saw last year. And a lot of this is due obviously to COVID and the compounding impacts of it. In Asia, what we're facing as well is amongst the pandemic and the impacts is people are dealing with multiple hazards, such as cyclones, floods, climate change, food insecurities and crisis. So in dealing with these multiple hazards, we know that to be able to meet the need, we need this whole of society approach that brings in different actors to be able to come up creatively to help solve problems. So today's discussion with the panelists we've got members of the private sector here as well as NGOs who are working creatively and collaboratively to address the humanitarian needs and situation in the region. So our panelists for today, I'll go through and then we'll jump straight into it. We have with us Tanaji Sen, who is the CEO of Redar in India. We have with us Mr. Carianto from Danone, the Director of Sustainability. We have Jung Wei, who is the Assistant General Secretary and Director of Africa Office for Amity Foundation, philanthropy. And we have Tommy Hendrathi with us today as well, who is the President of Humanitarian Initiative organization. So we've got a good discussion in store. So without further ado, I'm going to start off and go over to our speakers. What I will say just in terms of housekeeping is if you do have questions, to put them in the chat, keep them coming. We'll have a chance to get to them at the end, but if you want to direct them specifically to a panelist or more generally to generate the conversation after, that's very welcome. So with that, we'll start off with Mr. Tanaji Sen to tell us a bit about in India. We know there's a huge, we've got Yuko here as well, which is great. So Yuko, our moderator, so I'll start with Tanaji, Yuko, and then I'll hand over to you, and please feel free to add.
Sorry about that. It's technical issue. It's a new way of working. So where are we? Yes. You already started, I believe.
I was just about to hand over to Tanaji, so I don't know if there's,
okay.
Yeah, and then maybe you can jump back in.
Sure. So now you're Tanaji. Sorry.
Yes. So we're just going to ask Tanaji just about the breadth of partnerships that you've seen with private sector and NGOs within India, and I think the added value and how that's helped you advance the humanitarian objectives that you're working on together. Thanks, Tanaji.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Kea, for taking over and moderating, and thanks, Yuko. Good to see you here. Just to say that I work with an organization which called Redar, which fundamentally does three things: technical support, capacity building, and search deployments for emergencies and humanitarian response. Sorry, excuse me. And we also work across the spectrum of the disaster management cycle with a lot of our work, particularly in this region, on risk reduction and preparedness. In terms of the question, it's important to realize that corporate social responsibility is, in the way and shape that it is today, is quite evolved, but it's also not something that is new. at least from the India perspective, I can say that historically we've had some of the biggest corporate houses being involved in supporting communities where they have operated or functioned as part of the business continuity plan. And that genesis of the business continuity plan has evolved to doing more. And this evolution today stands in the Indian context. It stands at a very interesting point, because we have now codified corporate social responsibility in terms of a law in India, by which major corporate bodies have to invest 2% of their profits into corporate social responsibility every financial year. So there is a dedicated legal mandate and framework for doing CSR in India. So which is quite probably more evolved from from being an informal contribution, it's now also a formal contribution. So there has been a transition from just doing volunteer programs to actually supporting civil society actors, working with governments, and helping improve development goals and results. Because the fundamental logic is, I mean, I will not quote the organization, but it's basically a finance company who are investing massively in education, and improved education, better schooling and learning facilities, better teaching standards, because they fundamentally believe that if people have the right skills, know-how, ability, they will be able to invest more in the market. They will be able to achieve more, and that achievement would, in the long run, contribute towards financial investments, which would be to the benefit of the company's commercial goals. But while that might be the end goal, what they're doing today is making a significant contribution towards achieving 100% education for primary and secondary education in the country. So if you look at it from a partnership perspective, who are the ones who are implementing? It's the civil society actors and the government who are actually implementing using these corporate funds, which is now also modified. So the important thing to realize is that while our starting points as civil society actors or as corporate bodies might be different, the intent of our purposes is very similar. Our value base and ways of working might be different, but both sectors are learning, both types of actors are learning from each other. We bring a certain values and principles based approach to our work. They bring a certain results and resource cost benefit perspective. It's not that the two can't meet. They do meet, and they can achieve better results. We learn about getting ourselves better in terms of efficiencies. They learn more about what should be the value base behind their work, regardless of what might possibly be their larger intents in terms of economic benefits and financial benefits. So this evolution and the kind of work that's happening in India, and also widespread, it's quite widespread now in South Asia and Southeast Asia, and Asia, rest of Asia, actually, is that what you're finding is that partnerships are being created, and as you start working with corporate bodies and civil societies engage more, you start finding the shared ground, the common themes that drive us towards our own goals. And as we learn and grow, we build partnerships, and that value, that transfer of knowledge and know-how is crucial. I can give, for example, an instance where one of our corporate partners came back to us and said, this is our value base. These are the principles which should drive our CSR. Do you think it meets the humanitarian principles? Does it meet the code of conduct? Is that reflected in our value statement of 14 points? So you have a corporate entity coming back to a CSO saying, are we speaking the right language? Are we giving out the right message, corporate messaging to our system? So you had somebody who was a donor coming to you, who you worked with, and asking your insights on it. And that to me shows the possibility of what can be a symbiotic relationship. And it's that message that I would want to give out, that partnerships with corporates are beneficial in terms of the end user or the end goal of achieving development outcomes, of protecting lives, of saving lives. The kind of scale and innovation that you can achieve with corporate resources is almost unthinkable if you were to try to do it through regular funding and programming. So that's probably going to be the last bit that I'll add and hand back to Yuko, that we can explore, do more, and value add to all stakeholders involved, with the intent of protecting and saving lives and ensuring that development outcomes are achieved. Thank you.
Thanks, Tanaji. I think you gave the whole picture of the what's going on in India. I think it's learning each other is very important. The elements for successful partnership. I think it's a good point. And now I would like to invite Mr. Caliento, Director of Sustainable Development of Danone Indonesia. I'd like to ask you about the private sector's perspective. Mr. Caliento, so what added value have NGO brought to your work in humanitarian sector for private sectors? And what have you learned from these partnerships? Mr. Caliento, over to you.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, for the questions. And again, thank you for ICVA for the opportunity. I think first of all, I would like to quickly introduce Danone. Kaya, if you are able to share the screen, I have 2 slides.
Yeah, just trying to now.
Otherwise, I will continue talking while you are preparing the slides. So quick one, Danone, actually we are a leading food company based in Paris. We have 4 lines of business, which is essential dairy product, waters, and also early life nutrition, which is we commit to bring health through food to as many as people possible. And then actually now more and more our consumers are concerned about food and how products are made, who are really being the brand. And then therefore in 2017 we unveiled our commitment, our signature, which is we call it One Planet, One Health, which is reflecting our visions to the health of the people and the health of the planet are actually interconnected. So it is also kind of a call to actions to join kind of a movement for all of our partners at the entire value chains to adopt healthier and more sustainable eating and also drinking habit. So since 2015, Danone has partnered with an NGO called B-Lab to define a path for the B Corp certifications, which is kind of a certification for the private sectors, multinationals, related to the the transparency, the governance, to the workers, how we work together with our workers, with the community, with the consumers, as well as the environment. So, and then by gradually being B Corp, this will support, which is our ambitions actually to become enterprise mission. This is actually model created by French law in 2019, which is as an enterprise mission is defined as a company whose social and environmental objectives are really aligned with its purpose, and then set in the article of associations. And then being enterprise missions, actually we are also being supervised by a mission committee, which is made up around experts coming from many different organizations out of the company to really, I would say, review and evaluate our performance in terms of social and also environmental performance. So actually now I go to Indonesia, which is in Indonesia, our business operate in many plants, 24 factories, and make an impact to more than 2 million people working directly and indirectly together hand in hand with us to bring help for the people of Indonesia through our product, which is, actually we all are aware that basically operating in Indonesia means that we have to be ready with the natural disaster risk. because Indonesia is an archipelagic country made up around 17,000 islands and sits, you know, in the ring of fire. So therefore, it is really vulnerable on the many different disaster on eruption, earthquake, tsunami, and so forth. So this is the situation that we have. So therefore, as a part of the part of the Indonesia community, definitely we as a private sector, we should take actions if anything happen related to the disaster that I just mentioned before. For example, we also did kind of a early response and also long-term involved in the long-term recovery during the earthquake and tsunami in Palu and also in Lombok a couple years ago. So in this case, the collaboration with NGO non-profit organization are really key to offering critical support for immediate disaster response, and also contributing on the necessary redevelopment that support the recovery of our community. The similar situation also happened amid COVID-19 today, where we immediately respond by providing the immediate assistance, either in the form of fund, products, medical devices, protective medical gears to the hospital, to the community. So the fund is also aims to support the vulnerable, hardly hit by the community in the current situations. So of course, to do this kind of activity, we really need NGO partners to work with us. Why we need our NGO partners? Because at the end, we as a private sector, we don't have really the expertise in overcoming the situations. When the situation come, we don't have the expertise. Therefore, we need our partner, which is our NGO. And then perhaps, and also sometimes, the level of public trust to NGO is often higher than the business. So therefore, NGO as our useful partners are really able to discuss in more fluid way to the third parties like government and also the community. And of course, in this case, our partners able to really understand the wider issue beyond the beyond the business, I would say. So therefore, definitely the benefit of having the partnership with the NGO, of course, in this case, the ability to experiment, I would say, quote unquote, freely with innovative approach where necessary, and sometimes also the NGO are really able to take a risk when they do the activity on the ground. And our partners, in this case, are quite flexible in adapting the local situation and also quickly responding to the local needs, so that in this case they are really able to develop the integrated project as well as the sectoral project. At the same time, also the benefit of having our partners, which is the capability and ability to communicate at all different levels, from the community up to the high level of the government. And last but not least, the capability to mobilize resources from the both expert and also highly motivated people. So this is something that definitely we as a private sector, we have less capability in doing this. Therefore, the NGO support, having partnership with the NGO, definitely key for us to support, this kind of activity. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Karyanto. So disaster management in this area, in this Asia region, is significant and critical issue here. For example, in my country, in Japan, we also in the disaster-prone country, but unfortunately, in our case, the public trust towards NGO is not that high. And also, we don't believe that a corporate see NGO sector as a full partnership. So it's really glad to see the Indonesia. You have NGOs with good partners and they get the high public trust. So thank you very much. For next speaker, I would like to invite Mr. Tommy. president of Human Initiative from also Indonesia. He was also a board trustee in Humanitarian Forum Indonesia and some other networks. Tommy, Human Initiative has a good relationship with, of course, Mr. Karyanto from Danone, but I believe you also see the challenges with a good partnership. So what are the challenges of making private sector partnership work with NGOs? And what have you been able to build the common ground?
Okay, thank you, Kaya, for the question. And actually, I'm very honored to be here to share our experience, to discuss about how the partnership between the corporate and NGOs. Briefly, I will share our profile. Human Initiative is a humanitarian organization based in Jakarta. We work in 34 provinces with 13 branches in Indonesia. So the rest area, we partnering with the local NGOs in the ground. So make like a very strong network with several organizations in the Indonesia. But also we work in 5 countries. Actually, we have 3 branches in UK, Australia, and also in South Korea. Human Initiative, we have 3 main programs. There are initiative for disaster management. It is about how to be dealing with the risk reduction, and then also about the disaster management. And then also the second one is about the initiative for empowerment. It is the program who dealing with the communities to empower themselves. And then the third is initiative for children. It's about how we fulfill the right and make a like protection for the children. Regarding the challenges between partnership between the NGO and corporate, based on our experience that in the past year, we have very bad experience the partnership between the corporate and NGOs because of at the time the NGOs is opposed the company works through black campaigns such as environmental issues and then sweatshop and so on. So I think still did lie until now in several areas. And then the second is about the company even perceive that NGOs are not effective partners for delivering aid. It's about professionalism and accountability. And the first time when we are partnering with the corporate, we discussed about the accountability because at the time NGOs very lax capability on accountability. And then the third is about NGOs dilemma in taking role, whether to represent the interest of the company or community. So as bridging the needs of the company and the community, sometimes we are confused as an NGO. And then the fourth is there is unequal partnerships between the private sector with the NGOs. Still consider NGOs like a subcontractor or vendors. Sometimes they treat NGOs like the vendors of a company. They just give direction to the NGOs to do that the companies want, that companies need. So there is no negotiation to deliver the aid in the community. And the fifth is less understanding of private sector about humanitarian activities and the standards that follows. I do agree with the Tanaji. Actually, the NGOs have like a code of conduct. There is they have a value. We have accountability that follows by the NGOs. And then the sixth is private sectors in developing CSR programs prioritize areas closest to the company's operations, meaning that the company always focus on surrounding their operation. So the situation is something difficult for the NGOs to make like a negotiation. What is the priority to target beneficiary in terms of target areas and their needs? And then private sector prefers to partner with the NGOs, mostly engage with the humanitarian and development rather than advocacy NGOs, because we have a very bad experience in the past. So how we are very lucky because since in 1999 until now we have hundreds of partners on corporates. For example, with the Danone Indonesia, we have partner in the program since 2008 until now. It's about 12 years we have partners with the Danone. Also, we learn so many subjects from Danone, how to increase to increase the capacity of our staff in the ground. So how to make the common grounds to partners with the corporates. The first is understanding the organization vision and mission, respect to the difference of views and principles, while seek out the same intention to benefiting communities. So it is the point, because recognizing the competencies and potential capacities of each to be collaborative. I think one of the points there is we have to respect each other. We can share our vision and mission to benefiting the communities. The second is increasing the understanding of NGOs' roles to the private sectors through discussions, seminars, learning events, and so on. When we have many ways to make communication very close with the corporate, so we can reduce the misunderstanding between the corporate and the NGOs. And then the third is advocating the community needs to private sectors using company language, because it means that NGOs should convince the private sector that this assistance benefits them as is corporate image, enhancing corporate brands and for the sustainable business without abandoning NGOs' ideals. So we have to deliver this benefit to the company, so we can make the company, the NGOs, we have the same views with the company. The fourth is involving the government in partnership between private sector and NGOs. It is very important because sometimes the government there is not harmonized communicate with the business. So through the NGOs, the communication between the government and the company from the ground until the national levels become easier. We have so many experience regarding these issues. And then the fifth is maintaining the relationship informally to increasing the equality of communication. It is a very effective way to make a very close partnership with the company. I think that our experience, Kaya. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony.
Okay.
I think you touched on our possibility for better humanitarian actors assistance, because probably, as you mentioned, also Tanaji mentioned, we speak different languages. The NGOs are different speak language from the business sectors. So I think the NGO can be a connector with local people and also the government and business sectors and all sectors. So I think you touched on the added value as our professional humanitarian actors. Thank you very much. Lastly but not least, I would like to introduce Ms. Chen Wei, the Assistant General Secretary and the Director of Africa Office of Amity Foundation in China. Chen Wei, the The question for you is, what do you think have been the key enabling factors that have helped your organization advance your partnership with private sectors? Chen Wei, over to you.
Thank you, Yuko. First, I would like to share a little bit about my organization, Amity Foundation. So our organization, which was funded in 1985. So our work field is quite wide, include promote education, public health, social welfare, community development, environmental protection, and disaster relief. So we have been involved in many different philanthropy fields. From our experiences, that I think there was a 6C, which is the key enabling factors. I think the first three would be compassion, commitment, and competence. For compassion, as all NGOs or as our community-based NGOs, we understanding our role as a speaker and as a advocator for the beneficiaries, for people in need. So use our words and pictures and stories to share the needs and to demonstrate and speak for them are very important for when we communicate with the private sector partners. And also the commitment and the competence. I give example, one big earthquake happened and one big disaster happens that many companies and from private sector, they want help. For example, during the COVID-19 happened this year, on the first day of the Chinese New Year, when the news break, there was a sanitation liquid manufacturing. They want to donate their products to Wuhan, but they don't know how, and they do not have the personnel during the festival, and they do not have people who to receive them. So they find us. And because our long cooperation and we understand about know about the people on the ground, quickly find a logistic and to send the needed sanitation liquidation to our partners based in Wuhan. And then working out a system, how to deliver PPEs and how to procure PPEs to learn through our process. And also when the big earthquake happens, that especially the one in 2008 in Sichuan, we have office based in the area which was hit the most. So our commitment and the competence demonstrate how our ability and capacity to implement projects. So I think those are the common ground that how we can start to cooperate with the private sectors. And also I think that the NGOs, or as our NGOs competence is not just with our implementation of the project, but also with the personnel, with our experiences. And we give a very upfront advice, even when we started beginning to talk, discuss or negotiate about the projects. So that leads to my other three C's, which was communication, cooperation, and creativity. So our experiences is always being very upfront about what we want, what we need, and what the beneficiary need, what we can do, what we can't do. So that was helping to building on trust, and also help to avoiding the misunderstanding and potential risk for the future. And also importance was to demonstrate on an equal partnership. I share experiences. We do have companies to see NGOs as vendors, but we will tell them upfront that we are partners. So it's not just the donor and people who receive it always NGOs. So to keep demonstrate on the equal partnership are always very important, and that's how we choose our partners. And also with creativity, that means we being open-minded with all different kind of private sector. For example, I think about probably nearly about 10 years ago, one of the Chinese leading internet company who want to start their own foundation. They want to building up platforms to help NGOs to fundraising online. So when they first go for those experienced NGOs, one of they find is us. at the time, whatever the number of netizens online or the internet, how quick they would develop, we would not know. But what we understand is we are opening for all kind of new cooperations. So we talk together with them, what kind of platform we needed, what kind of project could get on, and how can we reach to the netizen, how to reach to the young people. Now this network each year, I raise many funds for many NGOs and help NGOs grow as well. And also when we first started the internet shopping experiences when it happened in China, we opened a philanthropy shop online as well, try to sell goods and to raise funds. And then when that big, the internet shopping online company, as we know, Alibaba, when they started doing philanthropy work, they first searching for different NGOs had acquaintance with them. In business-wise, they found our philanthropy shop online. So they asked us what we want to, why we want to do this, and what kind of work they can do, what kind of project. So we try to, although they are big companies, but we being very upfront and share our experiences with what kind of project is needed, what kind of platform which we needed. And then now they started the projects, I think they called Goods for Good. So for that, many of the companies, small enterprises, online open shops, so they were encouraged online to use the percentage of sales to contribute it to different projects, which was evaluated both by NGOs and the big platform company. And also we had experiences with through our communication and competence is volunteer programs. When we cooperate with the private sector, we always encourage them not just donating funding, but also ask their the staff to participate in the projects. Because with that, we not just receiving donations, but also for building trust and for the future cooperation. And they will have a deep understanding of the cooperation. We had experiences that when they started the company who only supporting, supporting fund for orphans and children in need. But then in the later times, because we have so many volunteer projects together, so they actually supported even more for the teachers for them and supporting other development sides of projects. Because we're talking about, we speak different languages from NGOs and private sectors. Only through those different activities involved with both their staff and both their management and NGO together, I think that will bridging the language barrier or experience barrier. So that is our experiences. Thank you.
Thanks, Wei-Ling. Before going to final question for all panelists, I think I see some question from the audience. So let me get some question from the audience. The one question is about regarding the COVID-19's affection, because I believe any country, everybody get affected by the COVID-19. So the one question, especially for Tony, so does the COVID-19 change the influence of the government sectors? So I believe the entire relationship could be influenced by, but what do you think the COVID changed the influence of the government sectors? Maybe I would like to ask the same question to other panelists as well. So what's the influence or changes by COVID-19? The first, Tony. I think it's you need to unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you, Yuko. Thank you for the question, Catherine. Our experience regarding involving the government in terms of partnership with the corporate is we are engaged with the government since from the what we call it very low level. For example, with the local leader, we invite them and we ask them to join with the program. So meaning that we're trying to combine the resources of the government with the resources with the corporate and with our resources as NGOs. So the models of the activities is will join together in the field. Sometimes the government send their staff to train the farmers with their standards. Sometimes they also give like fertilizer to the farmer that we assist with the corporate. So it is one of our sample to engage the government partnering with the corporate. And then regarding the COVID change influenced by the government sector, until now, based our experience in Indonesia, we are still struggling to making like awareness to the society, because the spread is very wide, and then government trying also engage the NGOs working together to educate the communities using the protocol COVID-19, so we can prevent the spread of the COVID-19 wider to the community. Meaning that the government still working very hard to engage all the parties to join together to stop the COVID-19. Okay, Yuko.
Thank you very much, Tony. And also another question to Mr. Caliento. So when you're partnering with NGOs, what the risk could be you have? So what do you, and also maybe if you have any tips or ideas or how you deal with those risks?
Yeah. Thank you. So basically, when we discuss, when we have kind of a partnership with NGO, I think it's not only NGO, with many other partners, there are always a risk that we expect to happen. So therefore, of course, at the end, what we need to do prior to enter the partnership, we have to understand. We need to really understand who is actually our partners, because of course there are some experience also that happened to us where our partners, our NGO partners, at the end they are not really able to deliver, the commitment that we agree together. So therefore, I think the initial understanding and assessment, I think Wishan and also Tommy already mentioned before, when we set kind of a partnership, we need to have we need to really spend a time together to understand both, I would say both parties, to understand what is the requirement, what is the expectations, and then whether the NGO is able to work together with us to deliver what we expect for them to deliver. We need to really understand, the added value that will bring by both sides. So, and then I will also highlight that basically in this case, we need to have the approach as a co-creation. We need to put our partner as NGO at the same level as us. This is more and more the approach that we take as Danone, co-creations, co-development together with the NGO. But sometimes we also engage with the NGO where their level of, I would say, knowledge, specific knowledge, for example, it is not up to what we expect. With the spirit of co-creations, actually, we can also do kind of capacity building, help our partner as well to grow, to have the same level of knowledge and understanding as us, because this is very important to have kind of at the end equal, equal or the same understanding, equal partnership between private and also the NGO. This is this is what we did so far. So we are not really treating NGO kind of a vendor, but at the same time also up to the NGO partner how they really grow and bring the capability, the knowledge up to the same level as what private sector needs. This is just kind of my previous experience.
Thanks, Carianto. Maybe same question for NGO speakers. Do you see any risk in partnering with business sectors? Maybe start with Tanaji.
Thank you, Yuko. I'll echo what Carianto is saying. I think this whole thing around the risks that either party have is probably, to me, sort of exaggerated. Because if you are engaged, if you communicate, what Zengvi was talking about communication, about of being creative, of being innovative, and work together to find solutions, you find a path. You can always find a path to work. And I think that's the uniqueness of having corporate partners, because they also bring in different lens and perspective to how we look at things with the same intent. So I don't lose my sleep, as Frank asked, what would you lose your sleep over? But yes, I would say that the corporates have a lot of compliance requirements. And very often they have third-party auditors who have actually no understanding of what work we are doing and what the partnership is. They have certain indices that they come with. I lose my sleep more when it comes to the third-party auditors who come in from firms who are unfamiliar with this whole communication and co-creation process and what's been actually done. Because while you have to be results focused, our work is also very, very process and principle driven. And it's almost impossible to, tangibly quantify in numbers and that process. And that's where you can potentially have a difference in perspective. But that's something that can be, again, overcome if you communicate, if you build that relation. So that's what I would say. And I can give an example just quickly. I'm just going to jump on to the point that Katrine had, that in India, in Mumbai, which was the worst affected city once. Now I live in the worst affected city now, which is 150 kilometers from Mumbai, in Pune. The government needed to actually train close to 100,000 frontline workers in a period of 1 week. So corporate donors stepped in. We worked together to develop communication content, learning material, and we ran sessions 3-4 a day with thousands of frontline workers and put our staff on the ground to communicate and work with them on how to use PPE, because a lot of the prevention for transmission was community-based work, community sanitation and wash facilities in densely urban settings. And so what happened there is that the government gave the permits, they gave the permissions, they consented to the content, they communicated to all their frontline workers. We provided the technical news, the delivery, the corporates funded it. An excellent example of confluence of actors for a humanitarian need. So yes, I think there has been a change from COVID, and I think it's for the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanaji. I think you just summarized whole portfolio community from the NGO sectors. So I think it's been time flies. It's almost, we have only 6 minutes. So it's maybe we can go final question for all of you. So one for final question, it's same question for all of you. So what advice do you have for private sector partners who wants to know more about humanitarian work and how to build a relationship with NGO sectors? Maybe start with Ms. Chen-Wei.
Yes, I will speak about that, but I will a little bit what we discussed just discussed before about how we cooperate. I think the basic is like all other partnerships, is with either avoiding risk or rebuilding trust. I think it's based on very good communication, and that communication is about our cause, is about our what is our mission driven. But at the same time, in practical way, with all our practical discussion or negotiation or partner building with all our private sector, we always bring our lawyers and the finance directors, which means in all cooperation, we also consult with professionals when we started and during our doing documents, basically. Then we will know what are the potential risks, and then from that as basis, then starting our cooperation. So we keep both with cost and practical side in both in hand, and then through our more enhanced discussions and cooperation in action as well in discussions. I think that would help the partnership for building. Thank you.
Next, maybe Tommy.
Thank you, Yuko. For me, as our experience during the partnership with the corporate, that we believe that the private sector and NGO have complementary advantages to help people in need. So collaboration is a must. I do agree with Zhengwei that partnership with the corporate is about building trust. We have to respect each other based on our values, our vision and mission. So the partnership becomes strong to help the community in need. Thank you, Yuko.
Thanks, Tommy. And next is Mr. Caliento.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Yuko. So basically the private sector's involvement in the specific on the humanitarian actions, I think you're aware that this has risen steadily, right? Which is even it play even larger during the COVID crisis, and then I think private sector also at the end also really see that there is no single entity can solve the problem alone. Therefore, partnership is really necessary. And then also you will see the increasing and incremental also about how the private sector is rather than just want to be looks good. Private company also see the investment on the disaster risk reduction is an essential for the business continuity. So it's more on the sustainability of the business. So therefore, in this case, the partnership with the NGO is very important for the future. And then I think what I can say that both NGO and private sectors must really spend time to understand each other, what is the need, identify what is the specific needs, and then discuss kind of a common goal or shared goal, and also the red lines. And then what is the added value that can bring by both parties in terms of the co-creations. And then I think sometimes sometimes we forgot is to really continuously review what is the impact of the partnership and how we communicate together. Thank you.
So Tanaji, over to you.
Thanks, Yuko, and thanks to everyone. I mean, I would say that I agree with everything that's been said in terms of what we can do. And if I go back to the title of the session, is there a business case in this? I absolutely believe there is a business case. A business case would work when there is a benefit to all parties and the end goal is also achieved. So in that sense, yes, we need to build trust. We need to engage. And if we do that, we would find pathways. So that's all I would want to say. We can do more, and there is a lot of scope, both to do innovations, but also to do large-scale interventions, which have significant impact in pre- and post-disaster settings, and during disasters also, as and when required. The only catch may be, would the private sector be involved in the sort of work that civil society do in protracted or civil strife settings where there are conflicts? That's probably the next mile or journey that we need to take as diverse actors. So thank you, and back to you.
Thank you very much. And I'd like to thank all panelists and speakers, and also the audience to the really good participation. I really appreciate it, all of your participation. Well, thank you so much. And also, I would like to thank to ICVA and also all the organization to really support this this session happens. Well, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Yoko.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank
you.
you.
See you.
Bye.
Right. Let's keep the discussion going. Great.
Yes.